Caleb Jensen and I, my best friend, set out to make a short film. Our goal was to do, something that was manageable, something that we could do as first-time filmmakers that wouldn't be biting off more than we could chew. And we had talked about a really great story a couple years ago. We set out to make a music video, and that just kind of fell apart. There was a short film that we intended to make in the process called what we ended up calling Portrait of Pearl. But it was, mainly about a girl whose father passes away, and she's tasked with going to clean out the apartment and that he was living in. And he had troubles with alcoholism, he had trouble with drugs, in and out of prison. Pearl's basically called on by the father's landlord to come take all the father's belongings out of the apartment, and in doing so she's given a challenge whether she should do it or not.
Sean and I have known each other for quite a few years, so I think it's one of those things. We've talked about movies, we've talked about ideas, we've shared artwork back and forth.
It really was like a pretty new experience for me to be acting this way. I had done some theatrical productions as a kid, primarily musicals and things like that, and then have later taken some acting classes in high school. I was really interested in it, but I very quickly got pretty heavily tattooed, and I really thought that would kind of, just dissuade me, I guess, out of the industry, and that it wouldn't really necessarily be possible for me. So it's actually really cool, I think, to have been a part of this. Like, I absolutely couldn't have said no when Sean called me up and asked me to do it, because it was something that I always thought of myself doing, but never think I would get the opportunities.
I was I'm not really that camera shy, but I am a little, and I just couldn't help but smile even though I was in a bad situation.
I have done a lot of film, yeah, but I usually play 17-year-olds just because I look so young. But that's why I really like this role, because I am able to be my own age, and that's kind of rare in filming in general. You either play super a lot older or a lot younger. I usually go towards roles that are very empowered women, and I don't know how to act otherwise, just because I choose roles that are pretty close to my heart.
As the writer and director, my mentality was I'm a novice at both. I had no assumptions of what we would be able to do, nor did I think that we would knock it out of the park by any means on the first time out. We just kind of wanted to write a good story and have a good story to tell on screen, and this story to me just felt very genuine. I knew that I could tell this story. I knew I could have the personal touch that this story needed, and then we kind of plotted our strategy as far as what we could manage. If we were doing this on a limited budget, limited experience, then what is manageable that we could still tell a good story in a short, kind of in a short medium.
Sean and I have never made a movie before. I've done a lot of photography. Sean's done a ton of painting. We brought a lot of artistic eye to things working on this movie. So we could easily bounce off ideas and try to really get a good feel of what we're going to create.
9-year-old version of you looking back at yourself, and you're in shock almost. Even me walking around changing your shirt or something like that. What I want to do is I want to not make you, I don't want to sexualize you, but I want a woman who's watching and who's been through some of the same things y'all have to do is be I know her, I am her.
Yeah,
whether she
change
sees
your
that.
shirt last minute, that was me all day today. I changed 4 times.
Yeah.
Just go to the library,
Yeah.
And still managed to wear the same exact clothes.
Yeah. I love that. And that'll be a really good spot.
I identified a lot with Pearl. Honestly, to the point where it kind of made me nervous, to maybe bring a lot of myself into this, or I really had this fixation on playing a character that was separate from myself. But I think once I let myself in on the ways that I felt we really had things in common, it was a lot easier for me to draw upon personal experience to bring that into what I wanted to portray in my performance. Pearl, I think, is probably a bit more reserved than I am. I'm a lot more bubbly, I think, than she would ever be. But we do have a ton of things in common in our past history. I had a parent leave around the exact same age that she does in this story, and It came, I think, with a lot of the same feelings. It was a bit of different circumstances, but I could really empathize with a lot of like the types of pains and like just kind of the walls that come with having gone through that experience. It was easy to bring that into a bunch of different scenes, but I think for a lot of the stuff that got harder, you know, I think I had to think about the way that she had lost something, and she didn't necessarily know like what the chance she lost with this person was, and I think that I really could empathize with that because I lost my younger sister to cancer earlier last year, and it was just, I really didn't have the same opportunity to like see her be an adult the same and like connect with her the same way I think Pearl was missing out on being able to connect with this person and her family. And that really carried through for me, especially when we were in like the wee hours of shooting. I think being tired and like trying to draw upon this like really a sadness that I haven't really touched a ton in my life definitely helped me like carry out the scenes that we were doing.
I get sent a lot of scripts, and I do not take just like any role. You know, after like you've done quite a few films, you don't really want to just like take something just to have it on your resume and whatnot. And I really gravitated towards this script just because the storyline of Pearl really hits home, and I just wanted to be a part of something that, you know, I can definitely like evoke a lot of my own personal experience onto.
I play the younger version of a girl named Pearl, and my parents got in a fight and my dad left. He is an alcoholic and she's angry at that too because he's too much of an alcoholic. A kid being abandoned with her parents splitting up. Why do you like a rainbow? That's not happy.
The scene with Nick Holland and Annie, two really incredible actors that we had portraying this part that really got into the characters. I think Nick, we didn't really want to see his face. He's plays Pearl's father in this movie, but he's kind of faceless to her. So we want to keep that kind of heavy bokeh in the film.
Working with somebody who's so experienced with photography, like, I mean, it really helped. It helped tremendously because all I worried about was story, and I focus on the script, and having somebody who could be the eye for this and really kind of know what to look for emotionally and respond to the actors was great. I mean, his ideas were some of the best ideas in the film, you know, like some of the funniest parts and some of the funniest angles. You know, there's a part where Rima is in the van eating some pork rinds, just, you know, because we were taking a break from filming. She was eating some pork rinds that Caleb had bought for her, and he happened to be filming it and eating a pork rind himself, and he went, as soon as she went to go bite down on it, he did like a crunch too. So we have this awesome footage of Rima eating pork rinds with Caleb's Foley in it, with our sound effects.
I thought it
Rima, she is a character in and of herself. She's a really, really incredible actress and gave us some great performance. And I also got her with a little pork rind. Some hilarious things that Olive does, dancing around.
A little nervous, because like I didn't know if I would be any good. This went over hours.
She's such a goof. I love it. That's awesome.
Wow. I guess I was good. I was a natural, I think.
Really try to make sure that people had fun. We really try to make sure that we didn't get burnt out.
Oh, looking good.
We laughed. It was a fun experience. I mean, you can never. We had so many horror stories that could have happened, And I've heard bad things happening on people's sets and all the worst things and people turning into absolute divas, and nobody did that, man. It was really humbling. You know, like we had situations and days where like a monitor might break, or we don't have enough batteries, or we don't have enough sunlight, but we persevered, man. We worked hard. We pushed through all of it.
The snacks are great.
Snacks!
We did a lot of stuff in a short period of time, and I think a lot of people came together and really helped us out with what we're trying to achieve. I think the vision that Sean had, me trying to bring it to life for him, and capture all those kind of ideas, the people behind the scenes that kind of gave us their time.
Fun working on the shoot, and I really loved the story, and everybody was really pleasant to be around, and I feel like the cast had really good chemistry, and yeah, it was one of the easiest shoots I've ever done because I was just sitting in a car the whole time.
Women are constantly sexualized in media and at pretty much every turn that they can be, and I feel like that's always almost like an easy way out for people. Women are beautiful, and you know, when you have something beautiful to look at, it does half the work, I think, in a lot of ways. But it didn't feel like at any point like my story was going to be reduced to like this stereotypical woman's story. It was a lot deeper than that, and I think that I like felt like I was accomplishing something real by being able to portray someone outside of like this story that you hear over and over again. This was a new and fresh perspective, I think, on like a young woman's life, and it was cool to be a part of.
Let me tell you what it's like being a brown actress in Denver. You get every role. Just kidding. It's cool being an actress in Denver. There's not that many work, so it's very selective. It's you oftentimes see the same people doing the same things over and over again, you know, but I feel like Denver is like a big little city.
I think it was amazing to shoot in Colorado. I'm from here and I have a lot of love for this place. I think that, you know, we have a lot of really iconic businesses. We passed some of them during some of the scenes in the van, and you know, like the bluebirds passing by, we're passing by a Great Wall, just all of these things that are like staple, like focal points of memories of my life. And I think when people come to Denver, they're places that people should see. I probably did like 10 laps around Tui's, probably a little questionable for the people indoors, but you know, I think we were all still having a good time at that point. Yeah, it was cool. I think it's gonna be neat for, I think, other people to see like what this place is, and it'll be interesting to get Colorado even more on the map, I guess, than it already is.
The whole like story of the movie, the concept was pretty great. I don't think I've ever seen a movie about what this one did.
Beginning of her sign painting career too, which is a nice potential thing on the horizon. You know, she grows up in Denver, and she lives in an apartment with a roommate, and she lives like a lot of girls in Denver live. They have a roommate, they're 24, 25 years old, they're not trying to be married and wifed up, you know, and have children right away. A lot of them just like to enjoy their life, go out to metal shows and be a young adult. And so when picking somebody like Brittany, she was so native and indigenous to that role, though she may not have had a lot of experience acting. She was Pearl. You know, I'd go home after shooting scenes with Caleb and Brittany, and I'd be like, I'm just seeing Pearl in my head now. You know, Brittany becomes this other person. When we were in Denver, we had a lot of cool locations. We shot a lot of them on Colfax, we shot on Broadway, we shot on I-25. And she knows the streets of Denver. She's a Denver kid. She knows, like, everyone in the Denver scenes were all familiar with it, so it didn't feel like I was taking somebody and dropping him into an unfamiliar situation.
Really different being filmed. I don't think I've ever been so aware of my own nervous tics or like how much emotion flashes on my own face. Like, I think there was like a handful of times that Sean was like, "You okay?" And I was just spacing out, like not really thinking about anything in particular, but I'm sure I must have looked upset, and I was like, wow, my face is really a tell-all. Filming was the coolest thing for me because I've spent like time behind the camera but didn't get to really know the process, and when you're on set like that, you really get to see how everything is done. I mean, from like the way that shots are taken to the way that you're fixing the lighting, you know, I mean, what's important to capture about a scene really comes through, because you're doing so many takes, like, and you have this goal. And I don't think that photography is necessarily always like that. You know, you have some guidance, but I think it's a lot more freeform, and I honestly really enjoyed like having all of the guidance that I had. Pearl and I have a ton in common. If we could be friends in some universe, I think we probably would have been. You know, she's really into metal. I'm really big into the metal scene here in Denver. I really enjoy all like varieties of the arts. I wish I was more visually artistically talented myself, so I'm a little jealous of her being a sign painter, I guess. I think another really cool aspect of this film is that we are like drawing from a lot of local artists and things like that. I mean, my dispensary's flower is featured in the film, The Herbal Cure. We've got an amazing band, Primitive Man, who's been touring all over the world but started here in Denver, and those guys are all amazingly talented and like really honestly the nicest dudes.
We wanted bands that we really loved and we, you know, would listen to ourselves. We had a friend of ours named Brandon, who's in the band Research. He did some great electronic tracks that were kind of like this ethereal tracks. And then we had Death Valley Girls, who have a very like 60s psychedelic vibe to them. Their music has this kind of haunting presence in the film. And then Primitive Man, which we're friends with bass player John from Primitive Man. They're a Denver doom metal band, and they're heavy as fuck. And especially since Brittany, who plays Pearl, actually really loves Primitive Man. She just saw Primitive Man play literally the night before we shot one of her scenes. So it just everything felt right, and they were cool enough to lend us a song. Another doom band called Basque, who actually, they're a doom band, but we end up using a song in the movie where it's more beautiful because that band has a very melodic sound. They have one of the best doom singers I've ever heard. I mean, he's got an amazing voice, so we were able to use that for some of the emotional scenes in the film. We have some other little secret music cameos in there.
Don't always have to fuck her hard. In fact, sometimes that's not right to do. Sometimes you got to make some love and fucking give her some smooches too. Sometimes
Hannah Greenstein, she does a song in it, and it's a cover, but it's beautiful, and there's a part of the film that we really needed to show heavy emotion, and she was able to extract that. I mean, she gave us everything we could possibly ask for in that scene, so it all just really made the film. When you're filming it, you don't know what you have. You know you have a little bit better in the edit. When you start to see a music track, suddenly it starts to help you paint the picture a little bit more.
I feel like there was a ton of cool little surprises throughout the film. I did know in advance about some of the items. Some of them came as like on the day of surprises, and I think that was a good way to find out about them, so I couldn't like premeditate so much of my feeling about it. But there's a lot of things that like really humanize Pearl, and not to say that she's a monster in any regard in the beginning, but you just get to like empathize and like feel with her as she becomes more and more of herself on camera. And I think that some of these little like Easter egg items that we've gotten into the film really emphasize that for her. In the very beginning, I like kind of had like just reckless confidence. I was just really excited, and anything I could do to get ready, I like felt really ready. And then as soon as it dawned on me that other people would see this movie, I think then I started to clam up a little bit and kind of doubt myself as like a creative individual. And like the more that, I mean, we worked through the scenes and like did different takes, the more I felt comfortable in myself, and like knowing that I know how to portray this emotion, and knowing that like I had a good scope of my character. I felt like it made me grow a lot as a person, and it made me grow as like a communicator in my own life.
I watched them grow. I watched them go from and even with Caleb with the cinematography, you know, like people didn't necessarily feel like, and even myself, I guess too, in a lot of ways, I didn't feel like I was a director. You know, Brittany didn't feel like she was an actress. You know, Jenny didn't feel like she was an actress. Rima and Nick are both actors, and they're phenomenal, and you know, they're used to doing this kind of work. But a lot of people who weren't, and even Olive, who's a child, a lot of people, in one of the greatest things that we saw happen in this film and in this entire experience, was watching people go from being not necessarily confident to all of a sudden being confident and having this experience of this self-esteem where they felt like, this was really fun, I want to do this again. You know, like, I mean, like just about everyone in it would be cool with being in a movie again. And I thought that felt good, that we were able to give people sort of this vehicle. One thing that I was really like moved by in this experience was the very end of the story. Me and Caleb and Brittany were shooting a scene, and I don't want to give it away, but we were shooting a scene, and both Caleb and I were watching this happen, and we were watching Brittany's performance, and it's even hard not to get choked up about it because she was that good, man. She gave us everything we could have asked for. Brittany had lost family members, she lost a little sister, and so she gave us a performance I don't know that we even deserved, because the day that me and Dub, or Caleb, were we were watching this performance unfold, we were both realizing we were witnessing, we didn't want to make any sounds, you know, we were witnessing something beautiful happen on screen or on a monitor. And as we were watching it happen, we were like, I think we were both in that moment thinking Brittany was the right person for this, for sure.
Felt like we were kind of all doing a thing for the first time. I mean, we weren't kind of doing something for the first time, we really were. And I felt like when I got there, it might have not been even Sean and Caleb's first time, the way that they had like the script written and, you know, like cues for emotions highlighted in the script, the way that the equipment was just absolutely everything that we needed. I felt like, I mean, amazing sound people that we found. It was just really cool to work with people who, you know, even though they were doing something for the first time, there was all this confidence and all this creativity behind it that made it feel like, I mean, maybe some like more veteran, but it was just really interesting to be on set with people who had such a dynamic vision for this story.
Good ideas for kind of where we can go in the future because of what we worked on here. We learned a lot in a kind of a short period of time to really prepare for this, and seeing that what we could create out of this, what we're going to take into the next one.
That's a strength of ours, that we're so good at, me and Caleb, like coordinating with each other. We don't even have to do it verbally sometimes, so it's really nice to be able to have that symbiotic friendship and that great marriage of creativity. You know, we both worked. Caleb was on every single shot of this, every single part of the way, and we couldn't have done it. I couldn't have done any other shit without everybody's help. So this is definitely a humbling experience, and I can't wait to do the next one.